Hello, you guys. This is Karen Elizabeth Patton Jack's baby girl. Excuse me. And welcome to another episode of Karen's Inquisitive Corner. Today, we have a very, very interesting session. Quirks and Perks, Personalities Unplugged. We all have a personality. But the biggest thing about our personality and other people's personality is knowing what your personality is and what communication you need for people to give you in order for you to understand the information. But more so, how we need to communicate with other people to get across the information that we want to get across to them. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to talk about the things that personality actually causes. You're probably thinking, okay, Karen, how is personality has anything to do with health? Well, a matter of fact, it has a lot to do with our health. And we're going to talk about that. So let's go straight on to the session today. Again, Quirks and Perks, Personalities Unplugged. So welcome. Please like and share, you guys. Like and share. People are going to want to hear this. It's going to be very interesting for them and you to find out about your own personality, but also how to communicate with that person that you just cannot understand for some reason. I tell you, it works. I have done it and it works. So did you know that there is actually a personality psychology? And that is simply the study of people's personality, of different personalities. Now, if you look up personalities, you're going to find a whole lot of big words describing personalities and a whole lot of information about personalities. I'm going to give you the 4 basic foundation personalities. Now, of course, they all have built on this, but when you look it up and you look up other personalities, they're all going to go back to the 4 that we're going to talk about today. You are not born with a personality. You are born with traits from your mom and your dad, genetics, but you are not born with a set personality. Your personality evolves as you grow. Your personality is determined by your social groups, a little bit of genetics, life events, your environment, education, your culture, your upbringing, your education. And your personality can actually change as you grow. My personality is different now than it was when I was younger. I really wish that I had this personality that I have now younger, because I can think about a lot of things and events that I probably could have avoided if I was more stronger and spoke up for myself as my personality supports now. So I want you to know that just because you have a certain personality today, or your children have a certain personality today, does not mean that that is the personality that they're going to end up with. You know, I believe we are all superheroes. We all have a superpower. And that superpower is usually what our purpose is. So if you don't know what your superpower is, let's try to find it together one day. But even with the superpower, we still need to know what our personality is. You know, personalities are very, very different. And as I've said in the corner a lot of times, just because direct personality says this, this, and this, does not mean that everybody is going to fall under that personality. Now, what I've learned is, with myself, I have a little bit of all the personalities, and you're going to find that out too. But what you're going to be able to do is focus in on one direct, or maybe 2 direct personalities that really, really describe you. excuse me. So as we talk about personalities, I want you, number one, to look for your personality. I want you to look to see what actually fits you. Then I want you to think about a person that you cannot understand. Maybe it's somebody you work with, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's your husband, maybe it's your boyfriend, maybe it's your kids. Think about a person that frustrates you to 100 because they cannot understand you and you cannot understand them. And I'm going to tell you why. So first, your personality, and then think about that person that you just cannot communicate with, you cannot understand. Now, when we look at personalities, we have director personality, socializer, thinker, and relator. My personality, I am a director first, and I am a socializer. Now, some of you all have probably did that disc, and it's got all these words in it, all these different activities for you to ultimately come down to whether you're a director, socializer, thinker, or relator. Now, I'm a director personality, so I can really talk about this. Now, what I desire is when you come to me about anything, I want you to give me options. I want you to have a clear explanation, and I want you to get to the point. I do not want a whole lot of fluff. I do not want a big story and all that. Just come to me and tell me what you want. And 9 times out of 10, I also want to hear what you think of how it could be fixed. But that's how, when you bring information to a director personality, that's how you get them to respond to you. Now, each personality has advantages and disadvantages. Now, some of the advantages of having a director personality is I'm very goal-oriented. I'm very direct to what is going on, what needs to be done, what needs to be fixed, what the problem is, and let's come up with a conclusion and get it fixed. I can also influence people a lot easier than maybe another different personality, meaning that I'm going to influence them to possibly come over to my side and think what I'm thinking or do something the way I want to do it. Now, and a disadvantage, again, this may or may not affect you, but a disadvantage of a director personality is sometimes I can be a little abrupt. I can be dominating and controlling. Now, maybe not, but I can see that in some of the things in my life. And I can also see how I have developed that personality in different events in my life. For example, being the head of the house, being a single parent, being a director of the state of Tennessee and having over 100 employees. So again, events in your life can transform your personality. Socializer. A socializer is just really, really fun. Now, a socializer needs to feel included. They need to feel like they are a part of the conversation, of the group. A socializer can really, really influence others too. For example, if you weren't going to the party, by the time you talk to a socializer, you're picking out what you're going to wear to the party. And a socializer likes broad facts. So they want to hear the whole story. They want to know the beginning to the end. They want to know A to Z. Now, some of the advantages of having a socializer personality is you're very friendly, you're very charismatic, and you're a warm person. Okay, you like to have fun. People love you. You come across as very friendly, very happy. You're joking all the time. And people like for you to be around in their crowds because the focus is usually on you. And that's what socializers need. Now, some of the disadvantages of being a socializer personality, You have no filter. So socializers are going to be the people that say, what comes up comes out. Well, that's not always acceptable. So they have no filters in what they say or the questions that they may ask, okay? They lack self-awareness. So they might say something and do something, and they're not really aware of how it's going to affect the other person. And they are not task oriented. Usually, people with social personalities, they're usually disorganized, and it takes a minute for them to get organized if they are ever organized. It's kind of like organized confusion for someone with a social personality. Now, again, this may fit with you. It may not fit with you. So think about which one of these is your personality. Then you have the thinker. Now, the thinker needs for you to have a process. When you go to a thinker and you want an answer from a thinker, you have got to have your stuff together. You have got to have A, B, C, D, E. You cannot have A, you cannot have X, D, C, Q. No, that will drive a thinker crazy, and you will never get them to understand what you're trying to say. So when you go to somebody that thinks through processes, and when you tell them something, they'll say, let me think about that. I got to think through that. Let me think if I want to buy that purse or not. Let me think what I'm going to cook for dinner on Sundays. Let me kind of evaluate that. That is a thinker personality. And if you do it, then you are a thinker. Most thinkers are also perfectionists. They want every I dotted and every T crossed. The advantage of being a thinker is you're very detail oriented. So if somebody writes a paper and they want the paper proofed, find you a thinker, because they're going to find everything about it that needs to be corrected. Before something is turned in, they're going to make sure that everything on it is correct. They're very thorough and they're very factual. So usually a thinker is not going to say anything that they heard or anything that they assume. They are going to look it up, and they're going to come back and tell you, this is what I found out when I looked it up and studied it. These are the examples. So a thinker is definitely going to be on their toes all the time. Now, the disadvantage of a thinker is they can appear very passive. In other words, they may or may not say something. If a director may say something to them that's off, a thinker just may not say nothing because they're analyzing it. A thinker sometimes can be very, very serious, and sometimes they can analyze stuff too much. So I have a cousin that's a thinker, and I love her. I love her. I love her. But when her children go and tell her a story, and when she looks at this, she's going to know I'm talking about her. She's going to say, okay, now wait a minute. Wait a minute. Start from the beginning now. What happened? Okay, so what time was it that it happened? Who was there when it happened? What were you doing when it happened? Were you in the car when it happened? Were you eating when it happened? Okay, so then what else happened? Okay, so wait a minute. So what time did that happen? That's a thinker. They're going to want to know every piece of everything. And by the time you get midway through it, a director personality, I'm going to be going crazy. The last one is a relator. Relators want you to be very talkative to them. When you go to a relator, you, as a director, I wouldn't go to a relator. I need this, and this, because that would usually hurt their feelings. I'm going to go to the relator. How are you? How are you doing today? How's your family? Good. So let's sit down and let's talk about this, and that. Relators desire reassurance. They want you to tell them you're doing a great job. This is correct. I love how you're doing it. Thank you very much. You're amazing. Relators need to be connected. So that's why you would go to a relator and you would sit down and you would have a conversation with them about something that may not relate to any reason why you're going to them to talk to them anyway. But that's what a relator needs. And a relator does not like conflict. A disadvantage of a relator is they do not like change. We've been doing it this way for 20 years. Why are we changing it? Let's just keep it this way. Are you a relator? So an advantage of being a relator personality is that you show empathy, that you really care about how people react and how people take things in and how people feel about different events or different processes, or maybe the end of a meeting or the end of a movie. You really care about how something affects another person. You like to network and you want to be safe. So if the rules at work is A, B, C, D, a relator is not going to go A, B, Q, X. They're not going to do it. They're going to stay with these rules. They're going to stay in that safety zone. If it's 60 miles an hour, they're going to be driving 59 miles an hour. They're usually not going to go over 60 miles an hour. That is a relator. Some of the disadvantages of a relator is they can be very indecisive. Do you know a person that cannot make a decision? They cannot make a decision. I don't know what I'm going to wear. I don't know if I should cook this for dinner or if I should wear these earrings. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think I should wear? What do you think I should do? What do you think how I should answer? How do you think I should write that? Do you all know a person like that? Sometimes a relator can get involved in other people's situations too much. They just kind of pull themselves in it because they really care about the person. And so therefore, they're worried more about another person's situation than their own situation. And again, they do not like change. So which one of these do you fall under? Take a minute, think about the person that you have a really hard time communicating with. And I tell you, if you communicate with them the way this says, what they desire, then your communication is going to get better. I promise you that it will. So when we look at the different personalities, when you start with director, then we are going to be very direct. And as you go to a relator, they're going to be very indirect. A director is supposed to be very controlling. I hope I'm not too controlling, but a director is supposed to be very controlling. And then as it goes down the line, a relator is going to be very supportive. So I really, really hope that you all learned something today about this. And you're probably thinking, well, Karen, you talked a little bit about how it really affects our health. I cannot tell you how much communication affects everything that we do. Verbal communication, non-communication. And a lot of people think that non-communication does not speak loud. Actually, non-communication speaks louder than verbal communication. So communication is the foundation of everything that we do. The lack of communication can cause anxiety. It can cause depression. It can cause worry. It can increase confusion. It can cause misunderstandings that may end friendships, that may break up families, that may end marriages. You would not believe the simple misunderstandings that somebody thought they saw, or they heard something and they took it a different way. And so now they're not friends anymore, or now they're not a part of that family, or now I don't have my wife or my husband or my significant other, simply because of a misunderstanding. Communication opens up that understanding. Communication gives you clarity about everything. It gives you the option to ask questions. It gives you the options to clarify. And it decreases the waste of time because you're not sitting there trying to think about it. You are asking questions to clarify what the person said. It increases teamwork. It also increases trust. When you go into your doctor's office and you ask that doctor these questions, and we've talked about how not being intimidated, that the doctor works for you, you do not work for the doctor. Go in there with your questions. Open that line of communication. And if the doctor is not able to communicate with you and you walk out of that office and you still don't know what's going on, you need to get you another doctor. Communication helps to solve problems. It helps you to understand. It helps you to understand. There are a lot of situations where now I'll go back to the person. Hey, let's talk about it. You know, sometimes you may be heated and sometimes you need to walk away because sometimes communication when you're heated or mad may lead to something. And once you say it, you can't take it back. So sometimes you need to walk away and say, hey, can't communicate with you right now. I'll call you when I cool down and get myself together. Stop the assumptions. Communication it knocks out any type of assumptions. You are not assuming anything because you are getting a clear understanding. You are asking the necessary questions. So if you have had a disagreement with a family member, if you have had a disagreement with a best friend or your husband or your wife or somebody that you're really close to, somebody at church, somebody at work, go back to them and sit down and say, hey, let's talk about it. I want to get a really clear understanding. Because sometimes people will say something to you and they mean a whole entirely different thing than the way you took it. And we have to stop being defensive too, you guys. When we say something to somebody and that person says, that really hurt my feelings, we can't say, no, it didn't. I wasn't trying to hurt your feelings. Does not matter what we think. What matters is how the person took it. If the person says you hurt their feelings, then you hurt their feelings, regardless of how you think you presented that information. So I hope you learned something today. Today was a little bit longer, but take it, you guys, and I promise you, if you do this, your communication will be better and it will decrease a lot of issues in your life. And tell other people how you need them to communicate with you. Tell other people what you need in the conversations or in the debates to decrease arguments and anxiety. So today I want to leave you with something that I heard on TikTok, and you may have heard it too, but I want to just leave you with this. And a woman on TikTok said that strong women, we go through a lot. God puts a lot on us. And sometimes we ask the questions, you know, God, why do you put so much on us? And that's because he knows that we're going to start it and that we are going to finish it. He knows that he is going to be able to carry us through it, and that we're going to have the faith that he's going to put us through it. And instead of thinking, oh God, why? Sometimes we should be very honored that God knew that I was going to be able to handle that he gave that to me to go through or to handle that storm. Because then when you come out of it, you're not cursed. You have a crown. You understand it better by and by, and then you can share it with somebody else. So if you are a strong woman like me, yes, we cry. Yes, we break down. Yes, we get lonely. But when we go out in public, we are leading. We are not following. We are leading, and we are giving, and we are providing, and we are bringing people out and pulling people in. So, strong woman, I just want to let you know, hang in there. It's going to be okay, because out of all the people in the world, God picked you. God showed you favor because he knew that you were going to be able to handle it. And that caterpillar was going to come out as a butterfly. And as you fly around, you're going to be spreading the good news and how you transformed and how you made it over, spreading his good news. So strong women, stay strong. I love you. This is Karen Briscoe with Karen's Inquisitive Corner, Pat and Jack's baby girl forever. Bye-bye.